on Instagram and Facebook. Today, Facebook's giving me a little bit of trouble, so I have two phones set up here. I got my Android and Abigail's phone, actually, which is awesome. And it kind of dovetails into what I want to talk about today is this one thing before you do something like this. Normally, a situation like this, where Facebook's down, I'm having trouble, would throw me off track of doing a live. It would normally get me off track if I didn't do this one thing beforehand. And this is the reason why I do that is it is no longer acceptable or okay with me to be knocked off track throughout my day, to have a situation come up, to have an outside circumstance influence the actions or activities that I do or choices that I make. I've made one of those non-negotiables with myself that is not something that I can allow in my life, that something happens around me that I can't control, and then it dictates and influences how I act and respond. I can't control Facebook. I can't control the fact that their platform isn't loading on my computer. But you know what I can control? I can control my emotions, my attitude, and my mood. Now, this is what comes up is this. When we wake up in the morning, if we rush to our phone, if we rush to our to-do list, we end up getting caught up in what we haven't done. We're now comparing the day before to our current day, and we're trying to get caught up. And it's a vicious cycle that, unfortunately, I lived in for a long time, to where no day was ever good enough. And I was just expecting and hoping that everything would go perfect, that nothing would get me knocked off track for the day. That way, then I could at least make sure that as long as it was working around me, the things I could control, that then I could stay focused. And that is just, that's a fantasy. That's a pipe dream. That's not real life. We can't control everything that goes on around us. What we can control is ourselves. And this one thing every single day that you can do is, and if you need to wake up a little bit earlier to do this, please do so. Spend time before you go into your day getting your mindset right, getting your thoughts focused and fixed on where you're headed long term, what your purpose is. Be joyful, have enthusiasm, excitement, and out of that place flows the work that you do, the activities that you make. If you allow these outside circumstances to influence, well, this went bad, so I guess the rest of the day is going to be bad. Or we say, you know what? Let's make the best of it. Let's make some lemonade. Let's make some strawberry lemonade with the lemons that we got today. And those are two different mindsets. Many times when we're in the mind state to where we are being controlled by our actions and our activities, looking at how we want to be, we're like, okay, I have to do this to get back into that place. Instead, it's usually letting go of all these things that we're holding on to inside. It's letting go of the fact that it's all not going to work out. And our control factor, what it is we're afraid that what happened last time is going to happen again. And so to control it, we step into this vicious cycle to where we have to make sure that everything's perfect, and then it spirals down from there. And if everything's not going exactly as we planned, we then give control. We actually pass off control. We take it out of ourselves. We give control to our situation of our entire life. We give the puppet strings, as you were, of our choices to that situation in our perception. But see, here's the thing. That situation never had control in the first place. You just gave up control and said that it's controlling you because the fear created that mindset. You're afraid that if this happens again, I'm going to lose control, and so I have to regain it. And it's crazy. I can't even talk about it, to be perfectly honest, because it's just asinine. And yet at the same time, this was a mind state that even I'll be honest with you, I was in about an hour ago. Before I did this video, I was like, didn't get a good night's sleep. Everything wasn't going as I had planned and hoped and should go. The should do's that should happen. And it was making me feel like I was out of control. And so instead of vocalizing it, instead of letting it control me, what I decided to do was just take an extra 10 minutes And I get it. You guys are like, I don't have that 10 minutes. I got to get into my workday. I got to get into stuff. If your entire day spirals out of control because you didn't take 10 minutes, wouldn't that 10 minutes have saved you far more than the 10 minutes cost in the beginning of the day to focus, to spend some time meditating, spend some time in prayer, spend some time looking forward, looking past the situation. This is what's happening. This is what happened around me. Let me look above it. Let me stick my head up above the water and breathe and look at where I'm going, not what I'm in right now. And then that gives us the opportunity to think clearly, to think cognitively, to make choices, to make decisions. And we're not controlled by just how we feel, but rather we're now in control of our emotions, our thoughts, our actions, our decisions. And from there, we actually eliminate fear. We eliminate the comfort zone. The comfort zone is the fear. The comfort zone is the worry. The comfort zone is the stress, the anxiety. And you might say, well, that doesn't feel comfortable. Then why do you keep going to it every single day? That's what I had to ask myself. We need to take ownership over the fact that we actually feel safe in that anxiety. We feel safe in the fear. We feel safe when everything's out of control. We stay stuck in our head instead of getting our mindset right and flowing and saying, you know what, this isn't going to affect me today. This isn't going to knock me off track. I am not going to be moved like a plastic bag in the wind by what goes around me. Standing firm. And to solidify yourself, sometimes when we wake up, especially when this is a process, you wake up in the morning and some of those solidified roots, you might have forgotten some of them from the day before, and you maybe have to remind yourself and plant the stakes down and dig those roots again for 5 to 10 minutes in the morning. And then that becomes a habit consistently, and over time, I'm talking, it can happen as quick as this, but for some people it can take months. But if you're improving each day, getting better at this, getting your mindset right, getting focused on where you're going, not letting the hard dictate you, not letting the feeling control you, but rather you being in control of that feeling, then you can choose to walk towards your destiny and calling without being controlled, being moved, being dictated by the validation or invalidation of other people, a situation validating you, a thought, a feeling, whatever that is. And you now take those thoughts captive. You can control them. And from there flows the activity. You're 10 times more aware when you remove that fear and that anxiety cycle. Your brain starts to think clearly, clear-headed, clear thoughts, actual creative thoughts, not just dictated by what validates or invalidates, but rather I'm choosing now, not a decision of pros and cons, but I'm choosing this is what I'm going to do, and you make a choice. And then do so disciplined, with focus and discipline every single day. Your actions follow your beliefs. If your beliefs are wavering based on your mood, you need to root in those beliefs. Repeat what you believe and know to be true each morning, and not let it control you in your day, but rather you get solid in what you're believing to be truth. You know, what I've had sometimes happen is I'll wake up in the morning and an old belief system from 5-10 years ago comes back in, 15 years ago, that I've replaced. And yet I forget it because a situation reminded me of something, and it was a trigger. It reminded me. When the triggers happen, you can start to eliminate your triggers by actually taking ownership over them. It's all about taking ownership over what happens in your life, in your mind, in what you're doing, and not saying that something else is in control over it. Taking ownership over what causes the trigger to happen and say, okay, that's not true, this is truth, and then you walk out, you replace that, and then you remind yourself of what you believe to be true, because beliefs influence actions. So when your actions don't follow what you believe, your belief is actually coming from another place that is creating that alternate action. Be solid in what's true, walk out truth, and live truth each day, and then move forward from that place. and nothing will be able to move you left or right. You'll be able to control your emotions, your decisions. Stuff may come in that will trigger you again. We're human. But we make a choice, we make a decision each day. And even if we get knocked off track halfway through the day, and an hour later, you're not a failure unless you let it control you. But when you get back up and you move forward, then you define where you're going. Grow your life, everybody, and we'll talk soon.